First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. There you go, a shot of the Willamette River. And it looks very tempting right now to go jump into that because it's very hot outside. However, there are things to watch out for. Yes, dangerous algae blooms, of course, adding on to this heat are something that are happening, and that's what we're going to be discussing right now and walking through how you can know where to go, where to be safe, and also how to watch out for that. We've got a great interview that we're going to be playing here covering that. Again, this is Fox 12 Now. We are here live every weekday covering all kinds of different things, and that's what we're going to be talking about right now. So let's discuss some of these newest algae blooms. Naturally, when you get the hot weather that we're having, that is something that can happen. And so I wanted to pull this up. This is a website actually from Multnomah County that will help you understand where some of the warnings are. So this is a current map right now that you can always pull up and take a look. This is clearly something they want to get out to everybody because of the heat wave going on, because of people jumping in. But the algae warnings are real. These blooms are something that you want to watch out for because it can cause a lot of problems, not just for you, some irritation, discomfort, even being sickness, but also for your pets or children. It could be, quite frankly, deadly. So you want to really pay attention to this. These are the areas that they're warning people right now. So that's all the way from Willamette Cove to Cathedral Park. So that entire section, they're saying watch out for that. That's from August 14th is when this bloom warning came into effect. They're saying that's increased risk for exposure. Now, they're not saying, you know, you can't, these are warnings. So no one's going to be down there preventing you from going in, but you probably want to follow the advice of these warnings themselves. They're saying that people should avoid swimming in high speed water activities. You don't want to water ski through something like that. So definitely you want to be aware of these issues. I know a lot of people are out there on boats or just wanting to jump into the water. Another big area of concern is right here around the Ross Island Lagoon, Ross Island Bridge. That's an area that feels like frequently ends up having some issues. They're saying this entire section here is something that you should really be warning. I want to reiterate too, when it comes to your pets, like for dogs, they're going to jump in the water. If you're not controlling them, that'll happen. And it can be really, really incredibly dangerous for them. So you want to watch out for that. You don't want to ignore some of these warnings. You want to pay attention to what they're saying. And then again, going down here too, we've got some over there by the Columbia, kind of in that Pete's Slough area near Sauvie Island, another area of warning. So a lot of algae blooms happening, a lot of things to just watch out for that. Be aware of these warnings and go there to this map. Again, this is on Multnomah County's website, and take a look and make sure that you know what's happening. Now, I want to get into it a little bit more. This was about a month ago or so when a different algae bloom was happening, and I had a discussion with Curtis Cood from the Healthy Waters program, talking about what cyanobacteria is, because that's actually what we're looking at here. Cyanobacteria is the real root of a lot of these issues that are happening, of what can happen to your skin. Again, everything that we're discussing. So he did a really great description of what it is, trying to understand what why it's dangerous, how it happens, and how you can look out for it too, because these are the dangers, the warnings that they know about. That does not mean that there's not more places that you should be concerned with out there. That's not to scare you, it's just to be honest. They don't have ways to detect everything that's happening in every body of water in the entire region. That's just not something that they're able to do. They can do as much as possible, but there are ways that you can also keep yourself safe and maybe others too by following some of the warning signs. So I'm going to go ahead and play that interview. It's very relevant again today as again, we're going through this heat wave. Everybody's trying to stay cool. Things to be concerned with though. You want to watch out for this. So let's go ahead and play this interview from Curtis here. Right now, and that is the Healthy Waters Program Coordinator for the Oregon Health Authority. We have Curtis Cood. Curtis, thanks for being here with us. You know, I know even just on our newscast today, we were talking about some different warnings that were coming out about Sauvie Island, some different areas around that in particular, but there's a lot that are going on with that. And I think maybe to start off for everybody, let's go to the base level. And I see this from your website. There's the term cyanobacteria. Can you explain what that means and really what all of these toxic algae warnings are about?
Yeah, sure. You know, for a long time, people have referred to this as blue-green algae. And, you know, what we're talking about is actually a bacteria called cyanobacteria. And the thing that's different about this bacteria is it actually uses photosynthesis to create its food, just like algae. So it can be green like algae. It occurs in water like algae. But the other thing to know about cyanobacteria is you can find cyanobacteria on land and on building surfaces and pretty much everywhere. Another good thing to know about cyanobacteria is cyanobacteria was one of the things that first produced the vast amount of oxygen in our atmosphere to give us the the atmosphere that we enjoy today. So one of the bad parts about cyanobacteria is that it does at times produce a toxin that we call cyanotoxin, and there are many different kinds of cyanotoxins that can have different effects on people and animal and other organisms.
And so I think that's interesting. So technically, it's not. We call it blue-green algae, but it's not actually algae.
Exactly.
Okay. So I mean, I think that's a great history of it too. That's fascinating that it actually produced the atmosphere really that we're using right now. Going to it now though, like what are some of the warning signs, I guess, of seeing it, and like how do you recognize what that is versus just regular algae that you would see on a lake or river in a normal circumstance?
Well, we'll start with that last part first. When you see algae in the water, usually it's something that's clumpy. You can pick it up and it'll be like, a clump of plant-like matter that stays in your hand. And when you're dealing with cyanobacteria, it might look like little dots or little grass clippings or something else, or like a scum. And that's, I mean, when you pick up those type of cyanobacteria, it's more likely to just flow through your hand. It's not going to stay in a clump. Now, something else about cyanobacteria are we can think of them in two different groups. One type of cyanobacteria, the phytoplankton, they will float in the water column. So you see those floating on the top, or sometimes they're below the surface, moving up and down throughout the course of the day, depending on where they can best survive at that point in time. There's another type of cyanobacteria that's called benthic cyanobacteria, and that means benthic means it's something that's growing on the bottom. It can be on the sand on the bottom, on rocks. It can be on logs and other surfaces, and it'll remain attached there. And sometimes those benthic cyanobacteria will become loose, and you'll see a mat of kind of scummy stuff that'll come up, and maybe it'll wash up on the shore. So that's a different sort of problem that we can talk about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's discuss that too, because I think it's really interesting to learn. I think for a lot of people, it may not be something that they pay attention to, and obviously, this is an important thing to know these differences. So yeah, let's talk about that.
Great. Well, we'll start again with the floating type of cyanobacteria, and for the longest time we've provided the message that if the water looks foamy or scummy, it's thick like paint, pea green, it can be reddish brown, blue green color. That's a sure sign of cyanobacteria, and that's something that you want to avoid. You don't want to ingest, you don't want to drink that water or allow your dog to eat that cyanobacteria or to lick its fur. So if the water looks bad, when in doubt, it's best to stay out.
Okay.
Now, so that's that floating or planktonic cyanobacteria. Now, the benthic cyanobacteria, you may have heard over the last year or two, and one good example is up in the Tri-Cities area along the Columbia River, about dogs dying from cyanotoxins in water that look clear, and that's a result of benthic cyanobacteria, and that's kind of scary because again, that's different than looking for something that looks like a paint spill in the river or something that's obviously gross. And so what we're trying to get the message out now about benthic cyanobacteria is if you see these a scummy mat that's washed up on the shore, you definitely want to avoid that. And this is, you don't want to eat that stuff. So you want to keep your dogs away from those sort of scummy mats. If you see your dog rooting around on the bottom, then that's something you want to prevent from happening as well. But while we're talking about dogs, I just want to say that there are a couple of other situations where dogs in water can be a bad combination. And that can be in times where you're playing with your dog for a long time at the lake, and one thing that can happen is that dog can really become overexerted and have a heat-related illness, and that can cause some of the same sort of symptoms as exposure to cyanotoxins. Or the dog could drink so much water throughout the day in that process that they sort of I guess deionize themselves and dilute their body's chemistry, and that can also cause problems that look like a cyanotoxin exposure. So these are just the sort of the things that you want to look at as a dog owner when you're out with your pet out at the waterside.
And I definitely want to get into that too a little bit more, just talking about pets, because I know that's a concern for everybody. When you're talking about that, I believe you said it was benthic, and I could have that name wrong.
No, that's right.
Benthic. Okay, so and that's stuff that you're not going to be able to see in the water, which that's kind of terrifying. But looking for the identifying, I guess, factors are the mats that are washed ashore. So if you see that, then that's a sign that that could be there, and to avoid that. Is that right?
That's right. Or yeah, it could be like you see or feel like a scum on the bottom as you're walking through. It can grow together with green algae. So you're right. That is kind of terrifying to think about. But I think the main thing to remember is it's not necessarily that you're touching it that's a problem. It's if you eat it and gets into your body. That's when the cyanotoxins are going to be at its most dangerous. Any of these cyanobacteria can have something that's called an endotoxin that can cause a rash on your skin. So you might notice that when you're going in the water, and that rash will usually take care of itself within a few days. It's irritating. It can be itchy. It'll take care of itself. I suppose the situations where you'd want to be concerned about skin exposure would be if you have open wounds on your skin, then that could lead to further infection.
So stay out, if you have an open wound, and I mean, obviously don't eat it or drink it, and not doing that part. One thing I wanted to just ask, because, I go into a lot of rivers and lakes here in the north, just like everybody else, and a lot of times there is, that kind of green scummy stuff on the bottom, for lack of a better description, which I think that everybody will know what that means. When you're walking in, especially along the banks, is that something specifically you should be worried about, or are there other forms of vegetation or naturally occurring things that aren't something to be worried about?
I mean, part of that is probably regular green algae. As I said, those benthic cyanobacteria can grow in the green algae. So, you might be walking on, it's possible that you're walking on cyanobacteria, but again, that in and of itself shouldn't be a cause for concern. Again, it's more about, preventing, eating that stuff. That's what you don't want to do.
What are some of the environmental factors that, I guess, facilitate the growth of these cyanobacteria?
Well, the main thing is nutrients. So, the more phosphorus specifically, and then can also be we that's in the water to help feed the algae, the more likely it is to grow. We also observe when these blooms happen in the summer. So as the water gets warmer, that just in general for, I guess, all life really fosters growth. So we'll see more of that during the summer. And Depending on the specific water body and what's going into it, we can see harmful algae or harmful cyanobacteria blooms happen anytime from late spring, and sometimes they'll hang on well into the fall, into the early winter.
Are there specific areas that are more prone to it than others, or could this really just kind of happen anywhere?
Well, it could generally happen anywhere. The thing is that we are just at the point of building some routine monitoring with our partners at DEQ to go out and look. There's a lot of water in the state. There's a lot of places to look. So, so the balance there is try to figure out how to monitor in places where the risk of exposure is the greatest, and how we can best get the word out to everyone about how to how to avoid those situations where you might find yourself coming in contact with cyanotoxins. So there's a lot of outreach and education that goes into this, and your show is a great example of us all getting the word out.
Well, I wanted to. I think this is really important to learn about this too. Actually, before I go to the website, because I wanted to show some different things, resources that people can have. You mentioned the testing and partnering with people to go out and do the testing. And there's a lot of water. There's a lot of water in the state of Oregon, so a lot of places to do that. So how often do tests happen? And to follow up to that, are there ways that ordinary people can help you out by recognizing things and calling attention to them?
Sure. I did mention DEQ before, but we also partner with many other partners that are responsible for managing natural resources or managing dams, managing recreational facilities, some public health partners as well. So, we really rely on those folks who are in the local areas to first of all, to observe something that looks like a harmful cyanobacteria bloom. Some of those partners have the capacity to take samples and send them in and get them analyzed for cyanotoxins. And that's what we're really looking for. It's not simply the presence of the cyanobacteria that's a problem. It's whether or not whether or not there are cyanotoxins present in levels that are of concern. And so I was just going to say most of the monitoring that happens is really related to seeing a bloom take place.
Gotcha. And I'm showing here right now a video too. This is from the website that gives a little bit more of a description and kind of shows what some of this stuff is. I think it's great. And in addition to that, there's a little showing of the website, and I've got the website pulled up here too. Just showing, a lot of educational materials on here. So I wondered if you could just kind of give everybody an idea here of what we're looking at here with the website and what they can learn from this.
Yeah, sure. First of all, the shortcut, the easy way to remember our website is healthoregon.org/HAB or HAB. And what you'll find on there is a lot of information that'll inform you about cyanobacteria, harmful algae blooms. We have an outreach and education component to our website that includes posters, that includes actually a comic, and some other materials that we use to help educate and inform different communities. We also have there's I think that blue button that's there will take you right to our current advisories. So that's important, a resource for people to see what's going on right now. But what I will say is, with a caveat, that we can't be everywhere. The collective, we can't be monitoring all of the waters in the state at any given time. So this is what we know about. And with our educational outreach materials out there, we're hoping that gives you the information that you need, when you go out to the water to make an informed decision about, whether you want to go in the water or what you want to do. Because, after all, when you go to the lake, it's great to go swimming, but there's a lot of other things you can do too. Just simply waiting is fine. Bird watching, catch and release fishing, a fly kite, any of those other
Yeah.
activities that you can do. So I just want to also make clear that with our recreational advisories, they are advisories. We're not closing those natural resources, and so again, that's why we encourage people to still visit those resources and take advantage of those wonderful, beautiful facilities.
I think that was a key thing, and even in my email to you all yesterday, you were clarifying that too, or somebody did. Just these are advisories. It's not closed, but it's a fair warning that there are dangers there, and this is something that you're getting out to the public, which I think is really important. So that page showcasing that was great. You mentioned some other things. I've got a dog, just like probably half the population here. So I was reading through this, and I thought this was a really good kind of reiterating what you were saying earlier, but just advice on that and what to look out for if your dog is getting into the water and some of the different things that could affect it. This is some good information. So swallowing, dogs, swimming in and swallowing water affected by toxic algae. So before you let your pet in, I guess it would be good advice to give a good check of that water first, right?
Yeah, sure. And the other advice that we would give you would be, if possible, when your dog comes out of the water, rinse it off with clean water.
Gotcha.
And yeah, so that'll help, prevent your dog from licking or eating any algae, or I should say, cyanobacteria that could be stuck on its fur, and then cause problems. And then the other thing to know is this happens really quick. And it can happen within a half an hour that your dog could start staggering, could start to convulse. If you see that, you need to get to a veterinarian as soon as possible to have a chance at saving your pet.
Wow, this is such good information. So important to know all of this, and I didn't think about that, washing the dog off after the dog comes out of the pond or the river. So I'll be doing that from now on, and making sure and watching out for all these safety things. Again, a lot of great safety tips and guidelines there on that website, and we'll give that website again too, just for everybody to know. But anything else that you think people should know about here? With this, you've given a lot of information here. I don't know if there's anything else though that you want to advise people on.
Yeah, I think again the main thing is, to know the signs of a harmful cyanobacteria bloom. If it looks funny, if it looks like really bright blue-green, reddish-brown, foamy, looks like a paint spill. If it smells really bad, that's a good indication that you want to stay out.
Those are good advice right there. Yeah, if it smells bad, don't go in there. Shouldn't go in there anyway. Well, Curtis, I want to say thank you very much, for sharing this information and getting this out, and just for everybody to help understand what's going on with the waterways and what to watch out for. That's all great advice, and a lot there at the website. And can we get that website one more time?
Sure, it's Health Oregon. That's all one word. healthoregon.org/HAB.
/HAB. So go there and you can find all those different guidelines that Chris was talking about, and a lot of great stuff on there, and a great video too that goes through it and explains a little bit more about what's going on. Chris, thank you very much for taking some time to talk about this. It's really important, and appreciate you being here and sharing your knowledge and education for everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Greg, for helping us spread the word. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I cut myself off there. The end again, I was replaying that interview from before, so that was talking about algae blooms. But I thought it was really fascinating learning about what exactly cyanobacteria is, a word I was unfamiliar with, like what some of the dangers are, how to identify it. Had no idea about that, and kind of terrified to know of what I've been in before without realizing it. So definitely these are some real concerns though, and again, there are some concerns happening right now, and that's what was kind of the impetus of playing this, talking about some of these algae concerns. You want to go jump in the river, you want to get out of the heat, but these are some of these warnings that are going on right now. So this is all from the website, just showcasing a lot of the different areas where some of those are happening. We also have some maps. I know I talked about this at the beginning of the segment, but I want to reiterate some of the dangerous areas as far as what they're warning about right now for getting in there, especially for pets. Pets and kids. You want to keep your pets and kids out of that because that is not a good thing for them to be getting mixed up in there. So that's the details I have on that. Also, earlier today here on Fox 12 Now, we also talked about some different places you can go to stay cool, some of the initiatives that Multnomah County has for that. You can watch that on our YouTube channel, and that'll be up at kptv.com as well. So different places you can go there and make sure that you're watching out for those people who may be at a disadvantage or maybe more vulnerable to this heat that is happening as we continue on with that. We have got all the details on that as well, as always at kptv.com. So you can go there and take a look at the weather forecast, our first alert weather, and everything that's happening. And this is Fox 12 Now. I know I always remind you of that, but that's because I want you to remember that you can always come here and watch our show. We are live every weekday at 1 p.m. Pacific, and then throughout the afternoon, we'll have updates. Sometimes it's interviews, sometimes it's deeper dives. If you have a subject that you think would be great to be covered, send me an email. Fox12now at kptv.com. That's Fox12now at kptv.com. Let me know what it is. We can take a look. Maybe we can do a segment on that, or maybe there's a news story we covered and you want to know more about it, and we can get the reporter on here, do a deeper dive, some behind the scenes, lots of stuff that we can do with this. So that's why it's fun to bring this kind of information to you. Breaking news, we're always here for that too. You hear any breaking news or know of something that's going on between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. and there's major stuff happening, we'll be the ones here that are going to be bringing that to you on our apps, on our website, on our social media channels, all of those great places to find it. So thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you joining the show, and I will be back tomorrow, if not sooner than then. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.